Hello everybody, let me start by showing you the pieces of the pattern. I have to tell you right away that for this design, more than for another one, it's going to be a good idea to make a toile. Please see in the chapters why make a toile to understand why, and also please watch the entire tutorial first to get an idea of the difficulty because there are some details to handle. You'll need some sewing confidence here. Before sewing, you're going to reinforce the tip of the neckline of the shell with some interfacing like this. For this project, you'll also need elastic tape. You can take a thicker one if you prefer. Let's start with the bust darts, which I have drawn on the shell fabric as well as on my lining. So I pin my darts and I sew them on both my shell and lining. And then I press them down, and this is what I get. So I take my back parts in both my lining and my shell fabrics. I lay them right sides touching. I sew at the top edge, respecting 1 centimeter of seam allowance. Now I make a seam 1.5 centimeter from the edge, which will work as a channel for my elastic. If your elastic is wider, please make the channel wider. I insert my elastic. I give you suggested length for each size, but please always check them and don't hesitate to plan for more to correct and maybe shorten them later. So I don't have my loop turner with me, nor do I have a safety pin. So I'm going to pull my elastic tape using a needle with a round tip. You pin the ends. You kind of try it on your back, half of your body to see that it's not baggy. If it's good, you seal the ends in the seam allowance. So I hem my lining right now. So you'll see the lining hemmed in the next footages. Don't pay attention. I later realized that I made my life more complicated than necessary by hemming the lining now. Don't do like me. We'll do it at the end. It's much smarter. Now, I lay my front parts, shell and lining, wrong sides together, and I sew them at the sides and the neckline in the seam allowance. Once it's done, you lay the front and back parts right sides together. You use the notches to correctly match and place them, and you sew on the sides. As you can see in this design, the lining is not free inside the dress. It's sewed to the sides, which is nice to wear, but it's not ideal if you need to make adjustments at the very end of the project. Finish the edges on the sides. Now I'm going to top stitch. Again, top stitching makes later adjustments a lot of work, so better make a toile. This is the result. Now I have the bias strips before me. I'm going to press them down to create bias tape. So we have to prep the ground. The first thing was to stick interfacing, which we have done earlier. Now we'll make a small seam here at the tip. So you sew on either side of the tip on 3 centimeters or so, and you sew 1 centimeter from the edge. I'm using a narrow stitch, so a tight stitch length to avoid fraying. Why fraying? Because finally we'll cut the tip this way. So I take my ruler and I trace a line 1 centimeter from the edges. Now I take my scissors and I cut the tip off like this. Please pretend that you don't see the bias half sewed down there. Actually, let me hide it. The illusion is perfect now. See? No bias half sewed. It's all perfect. No mistake. Haven't made ever. Okay, so remember the tip is cut. Let's make our bias tape. We have 2 of them. I fold them in half and I pin in the center. Now take your dress, the front part, fold this part of the neckline in half and mark the center as well. Now match the 2 centers and pin together. Pin the bias tape on half of the neckline. And then we sew respecting 1 centimeter of seam allowance. I trim the edges. You can remove like half of the seam allowance. Okay, we're back to the tip actually being cut off, no more illusion. I fold again towards the lining so that the bias tape is not visible on the right side of the fabric. Once I'm here, we have another incision to make at the tip. So I haven't sewed anything yet, only pinned. On the right side, it looks like this, and this opens like this, all right? I pin so this doesn't move. Now I take a pencil, I draw a line 1 centimeter deep. And I cut again. I fold this part underneath my binding. I pin and also the binding close to the edge. We take care of the binding part only. For the ties that are around the neck and the back, we'll do it afterwards. So this is what we have now. We'll do the other side now. I fold the neckline and I mark the center. I take the other bias strip, I fold and I mark the center. I match both centers. I pin. I sew respecting 1 centimeter of seam allowance. I trim the seam allowance. I fold the bias towards the lining and I pin. And let's make a little close-up on the tip of the neckline where the bias tapes overlap. So here's the look of it. Now the ties, first the ends, which I basically hem. And I sew. And this is what I get once the ties are sewed. Finally, we have the hems. Again, I actually started making the hems in the 5th chapter. Not smart either, as I said, so you try the dress on and decide for a length that you like. And then you can make either a 2-fold hem, keeping both layers together, and sew invisible stitches by hand, or you can finish the edges of the shell. And then you're just gonna make a 1-fold hem. And finally, you hand stitch again, making invisible stitches. And that's it, the dress is done. So this dress is one version of 4 summer dresses. This one is version D, is like the most difficult, I'd say. It's the most technical. For all these dresses, it's the same fit, mini dress, slight A-line, woven fabric, all slip-on, with variations at the top parts. So it's gonna be sort of easy to shorten them into summer tops if that's what you're into. If you make it, use this hashtag and tag me on social. And that's it, take care and see you soon for another sewing project. Kiss, bye!